On this episode, we meet the intern, we talk college livestock judging, and we discuss how to prepare yourself for the real world after college.
To the Front, the show that answers questions for stock show families. Presented by TTF Nutrition, livestock supplements that get you to the front.
Welcome to the front. This is episode 8, a little different episode than what we've done here recently. We're going to call this one Meet the Intern. And speaking of interns, I'm joined by McKenna Sobasky. McKenna, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Thomas?
Doing great. Well, anybody that was familiar with TTF last year knows McKenna was our intern last year, and we were lucky enough she was lucky enough to come back for a second year, depending on who you ask about that. So we're really excited to have her back, learn a little bit more about McKenna and her story, and then probably get some words of advice from her as well today. So McKenna, tell me briefly your livestock backstory. When did you start showing? What animals did you start showing? And kind of what made you fall in love with this industry?
Yeah, so I would say that my livestock background started from pretty much the moment that I was born. My parents were raising hogs with their brothers and sisters when I was born, and so I grew up raising show pigs with my family until I was about 14 or 15. And my dad switched jobs and decided that we needed to get out of the show pig raising business, and so we just started buying pigs, but that didn't change the fact that we went to jackpot shows, we showed at national shows, we went to state fair and county fair and tried our best to competitively get ourselves involved in that avenue of the livestock industry.
Excellent. Only pigs that you showed all the way through, or did you ever branch out and show any other species?
Well, we tried goats for a couple of years, but I wasn't really big on the whole boar goat situation, so that ended very quickly.
And so you guys exclusively showed your own up through that age 14 then, for the most part?
For the most part, we bought a couple of them from other people in that time, but for the most part, we like to raise a wide variety of them during that time. I mean, Mom and Dad loved the whole Hampshire situation. Believe it or not, when I was young, I was heavy on the spots. So we had spots for quite some time due to the influence that I had on the show pig operation at the time. But we also had some crossbreds, some Durocs, some Yorks. So we kind of had a little bit of variety in there, and whatever we didn't find good enough ourselves that we could breed, we would just go out and we would buy them.
So you really got what I'd call the full, probably true 4-H experience you got to see from breeding those animals, or maybe showing them one year, breeding them, farrowing them, and then kind of raising their litter and their genetics and kind of seeing how those things progress. You got probably the full gamut of all of that then.
Yes, for sure. I mean, there was times where we would buy a gilt and Dad would say, hey, we're going to show this, but the main reason that we're buying this gilt is so that we can breed her and we can kind of expand what we've got going on here. So we'd buy her, we'd show her for a little bit, breed her, farrow her out, and then eventually show her babies or sell her babies or whatever we thought we needed to do from then on.
I wonder if that sort of segues into what you're doing now in school and kind of the passion that you found, and I know you enjoyed showing livestock, but tell us about kind of as you entered high school, maybe how that arena changed just a little bit for you.
Yeah, for sure. So starting in probably middle school, maybe even 5th grade, I started the avenue of livestock judging. And I started it in 5th grade and kind of wanted to test out the waters and was like, I see Mom and Dad and Uncle Andy and Aunt Net doing all this at home, like looking at these animals, deciding which ones they want to breed to. This is kind of interesting. Maybe I should dip my toe in the water and see what that's all about. Well, it didn't take long for me to fall in love with that for sure. And so all through middle school and high school, I was livestock judging with the Cherubusco livestock judging team. We had quite a bit of success there. We won a couple national contests, one state contest a couple times, even got to judge overseas in Scotland one year because we won the North American. And so then that led into the avenue of collegiate livestock judging. And I just graduated from Northern Oklahoma College, where I was on the livestock judging team there. I was named All-American for livestock judging, which is a combination of your academics and your livestock judging success. They picked the top 15 from the country. So I was number 2 All-American in the collegiate livestock judging deal. And in the fall, I will be attending Oklahoma State University and being on the livestock judging team there as well.
Excellent. And that's awesome accomplishment. Like you said, kind of both classroom work as well as excelling, on the livestock judging side. I think you also kind of left something else out. Tell me how you finished your collegiate livestock judging career, if you don't mind.
So you wrap up your collegiate judging career at Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and I was the high individual at Houston this past March.
Excellent. So it's really neat to hear how you started kind of raising them and then how that's carried through. And then I think as you're going to go to senior college, I think the plan is to continue judging, kind of the judging contest route. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where are you going to be going next year?
Oklahoma State University, Stillwater.
I guess I wore my orange shirt just in support of the Cowboys or something like that.
You knew what you were doing.
Accidental or something. Excellent. Well, that's great, McKenna. I'd love to kind of get I think you've thought things through really well, and you and your parents have discussed things really well, and you've set up kind of a plan for how you're going to progress through school. So I'd love to get some insight from you, if you don't mind. So think back just a couple of years ago, maybe I'd call that the senior summer, your last summer showing livestock. And as someone that's a couple years into college, what's your best recommendations for those seniors or those people that are in their last few years thinking about heading off to college in the fall? Maybe how would you suggest they finish up their livestock career, and then how would you think that they should think about kind of that transition to college?
Yeah. So specifically for the senior summer, my biggest piece of advice would be to enjoy where you're at, because life changes so fast once college starts. And whether you stay close to home or whether you go far away like I did, life changes so fast once you start college. But also, those years leading up to when you do go to college are so important in the things that you learn and the things that you train yourself to do, to manage your time, to communicate with other people, preparing yourself for what's to come is one of the biggest things that I think you can do to set yourself up for success. And that's whether you're going into just an ag-related field, whether you're going into livestock judging or anything else. College rewards people who like to work hard, who are persistent, who have hard work, and most of all are coachable and like to reach out to others and ask others for help and what they can improve on and what they can do. So I would say enjoy your senior summer and enjoy those last summers that you have leading up to then, but don't spend it being scared of what's next and being so scared that you stay comfortable where you're at. Don't be comfortable with where you're at. Rather, train yourself and give yourself those kind of ways that you can reach out to other people and enjoy that time that you have left.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that on this podcast, like reaching out to other people. And that's one of the things I love about this industry is you can reach out to so many people and you can reach out and get advice, whether that's on livestock things or that's career choices or college choices. And, people want to be helpful to you.
Yes.
So you made the choice at some point in time that you really love the livestock judging and kind of the judging team. What's some advice that you might have for somebody that's thinking about kind of starting on the judging program and kind of how would you recommend they get started and what would you encourage them to prioritize?
I would say it all depends on the age that you're at. And if you're still in high school, my biggest piece of advice would be to find a FFA chapter who is not necessarily the most competitive in it, but somebody who dabbles in it and likes to do well, likes to stay consistent in practicing, giving sets of reasons, judging classes. That would be my recommendation if you're in high school and you're first starting out. Find those people who are already in it and ask them for help. They want to help you, they want to teach you, and they want to see you succeed. So don't be afraid to ask them for help because they were where you were at one time. They were just starting out at some point in time, and so they are going to do their best to help you to get to where they are at now. Now, if you're going into college livestock judging, maybe that's a little bit different. And the biggest thing that I guess me and my dad always talked about, whether that was in high school or college, is stay humble but stay hungry. Go in humble, knowing that there are other people that are better than you and there are other people who you can learn from because they know more than you do. So stay humble in that aspect of it, but never be comfortable where you're at and be so hungry for it that you want to keep learning more. You want to keep getting those connections so that you can learn more about the livestock, learn more as far as oral reasons go. And so just stay humble, but stay hungry, and don't be afraid to reach out to people for help because they all started where you were at sometimes. So don't be afraid to ask them for help.
maybe one thing that'd be helpful to know, if you are maybe judging in middle school or high school, I think there's a level of commitment to that, but maybe take me through your schedule now that, when you were in junior college, what kind of time commitment are you spending on doing that? And how do you balance that maybe with your schoolwork? But like, what's practice look like, and what does kind of the calendar year look like for you?
I will say, if you are going to judge in junior college, it is a commitment, and it has got to be something that your heart is absolutely in, because you will not have a lot of time for other things. So a normal week for college livestock judging, at least NOC where I was at, we had classes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but we purposely scheduled where we did not have class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On those Tuesdays and Thursdays, it was not uncommon to leave the ag building at 6 a.m. and probably not get back until about 10 o'clock at night. And that was every Tuesday, every Thursday, and then Friday afternoons. Most classes got over by about noon on Fridays. So we would go out and we would go to workouts, practice, give reasons from about 1 o'clock until later in the evening on Fridays. And then same thing on Saturdays, leave at 6 a.m. You're probably going to get back later in the day. And then Sunday was usually a day where it was like, we need to get up, we need to go to church, spend some time with our friends, and probably do some homework if you don't want to fail. So, it is very much a commitment in the fact of you're going to go to school on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but you're going to go to practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays for sure, and most likely Fridays and Saturdays too. And one way that I guess my judging coach specifically was very good about balancing livestock judging and schoolwork was we had study halls. So every single Wednesday we had grade check and study hall. If you had anything below a B, you had to sit in study hall until all the homework for that specific class was done. I luckily never had to be in that position because I had a little bit too much academic anxiety and was scared of anything below an A. So I never had to be in that position, but I would even go into study hall and see my teammates in there and be like, hey, do you guys need help with your homework? What are you not understanding? Why do you have a B in this class? And that was kind of another thing too, is balancing schoolwork in the livestock judging situation. Your teammates helped so much with that because we all held each other accountable in the sense of hey, you need to be at practice on time. Hey, you need to get your schoolwork done, and you need to take care of all the responsibilities that you have.
Yeah, that's great, McKenna. It's I think it's surprising to me as a non-livestock judging individual to hear how much time that you guys put into that. And it seems like a lot of the principles that you probably learned in the farrowing house and in the show ring carry over to what you're doing today as far as being committed to your craft, realizing that the more work you put into it, the better the results are. And clearly the results have been great for you based on your commitment to it. So congratulations from all of us. I know I've told you off camera, but that's awesome, everything that you've accomplished so far. Looking forward to seeing kind of what you do over the next couple of years. One of the things that I think you've been ahead of the curve on is this idea of an internship, right? And I think, you started after your freshman year in college and I think reached out to us and said, is there anything I can do? And we gave you the task of calling all of our dealers, right, and getting you comfortable with talking to them, and they loved hearing from you as well. And I thought it was a great first summer. You're doing some of that this summer, and then we're going to be expanding that role a little bit more. But I think internships become so invaluable. I think they help you understand what you like and what you don't like in the business world. I know I had several of them, and they helped shape what I wanted to do going forward. So talk to me. You're ahead of the curve, in my opinion. What should students be doing as far as looking for an internship, and how should they be thinking about kind of their career, or what have you thought about here, maybe even a little bit?
I think the biggest thing that kids my age think about when it comes to an internship is, oh, I'm not qualified to do this. You have to be able to do this, this, and this. Well, how do you know? Did you reach out and ask them? Did you look at the qualifications? Did you ask them if there was anything else that you could do? And that's what I think the biggest thing is kids my age need to quit waiting until they think that they're qualified for something and rather just pick up the phone and say, hey, is there any opportunities that you have for me or anything that I can do this summer that'll be beneficial in the field of work that I want to go into? And that might even be the fact of finding out what you don't want to do, like you said. You might find an internship where it's okay, great, I did that for one summer. I didn't love it. At least I know that that's not what I want to do in the future. And another thing is, it's so important for the relationships, the communication, and the networking that you get through an internship as well. You meet so many new people, whether that's in person, face to face, talking to them on the phone, any of that, those connections that you make through an internship are going to get you farther in your life than you ever will think. And I mean, for example, I go to school in Oklahoma, like we have already talked about, and I went to a feed store this summer. I don't even know if I've told you this, Thomas. I went to a feed store like right before I came home for summer, and I talked to a guy named Heath, and I told him my name, and he was like, I talked to you last summer on the phone. And I was like, I bet you did. I see some TTF products over there. We talked on the phone, didn't we? And he was like, yeah, we did. And so those networking skills that you learn, the different communication skills, and all of those relationships that you build during that time are so, so valuable. And I think that like kids need to quit worrying about being qualified for an internship and rather think about, what am I going to get out of this experience? I need to network and reach out to those people that I have met through this industry to see what there is out there for me, and I'm going to either find something I like or find something that I don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we've talked about in our house is we're doing the Livestock project to help raise our kids to be functional adults long-term, right? And so this is kind of that next step of, you know, you're learning what the business world a little bit looks like. And like you said, great, you spent a lot of time making phone calls. You made a lot of connections. You dealt with different personalities throughout the summer, and you and I have talked through some of those, right? And how do we deal with different people that are outside of my circle of friends that I have at college? And I think that's been so valuable. I know for me back in the day, it was really valuable. I moved away for a summer and kind of did an internship, and it just taught me so much kind of going into the business world. So it's been great. Excellent. McKenna, thank you so much for sharing kind of a little bit of your story and some of the advice that you've received and you've learned over the last several years. Guys, if you see McKenna, she's going to be at World Pork Expo or the exposition with us. I think she's going to go to Illinois to their summer type conference. She's going to be in Indianapolis at NJSS. She's going to be at a lot of county fairs. If you've got questions about products, of course, you can talk to her about that. But I would say more importantly, if you have questions about growing up in the livestock industry, getting into livestock judging, getting ahead on an internship, some of these great things that I think McKenna has done exceptionally well, stop her and talk to her about it. I guarantee you she'd love to talk to you. And if she doesn't, her dad's probably nearby and is also willing to give you guys some advice as well at the same point in time. So, McKenna, we're excited to have you back again this summer. Looking forward to seeing everything we accomplish.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
To the Front has been brought to you by TTF Nutrition. Livestock supplements that get you to the front. Learn more at ttfnutrition.com.